Welcome to Orthodoxy First. My name is Luke Kendrat. I'm your host tonight and always, and we're joined once again by one of my favorite guests to have on the show, David, the real Med White. David, how you doing tonight?
So I'm doing well, especially feeling happy that I am still the king guest in your stream. I'm just making a reference to we had a stream. What was that stream on again? Something to do with the priest getting attacked by paganism in dialogue or something like
Yep,
that.
yep,
Yeah, that was a really nice stream.
yeah.
So I'm happy to be back here with my friend and with everyone here to also talk about some, I guess, not non-theology stuff at times, because it's like a good time. It's sometimes good to like take a bit of a pause,
Mhm.
because one of the things that you notice when making videos about like just one topic in general, it's not even you get tired or fatigued. It's just that you end up like being okay. I've done 100 videos. I don't have the tempo. Like, what can I even talk about? So you gotta like take some time, chillax, and talk some other stuff. So I'm happy
Yeah.
to be here, Luke.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. No, I'm glad to have you as always. We got a really important topic tonight, obviously, although
Mm-hmm.
it is casual Friday, as you can tell from our attire. We're just
Mm-hmm.
hanging out. We've got a chill stream, but
Yeah.
a chill stream with an important topic nonetheless. We're going to talk about
Mm-hmm.
the dangers of right-wing ecumenism. And David, you brought this topic up. I don't know, it was about a week or so ago. And I love the idea because this is something that's so talked about in our circles online
Mm-hmm.
today when we have guys like you, guys like me, who are in a lot of these, we'll say, for lack of a better term, right wing circles online. And it's like
Mm-hmm.
we have a lot in common politically with people from other
Mm-hmm.
faiths. I mean, whether they're
Mm-hmm.
Roman Catholic, whether they're Protestant, whatever. We find common ground, in the ideals
Mm-hmm.
of putting our nation first, and in
Mm-hmm.
our faith in God. And these are very important things, of course. But
Mm-hmm.
there certainly comes a point where we need to define our theological boundaries, what we believe, what we profess as the true faith, and why this is an important distinction from other heterodox groups that are out there. So it's something that's definitely important to address. It's important to talk about, and we need to really be made aware that as much as we can have in common politically with these people, we can't sacrifice any of the faith. We need to make sure that
Mm-hmm.
we are really putting orthodoxy first. I mean, that's really the key of all of this. No matter how much we have in common politically with these people, it does not compare to our faith.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I want to kind of start by saying that I don't I don't usually talk about these things to like with an ulterior motive or anything to like attack some other people or anything like that. That's not my intention. So for example, I do like a certain person who believes in America first, right? Who's like the big guy in that.
Hmm.
I'm sure we both like him. We don't have any issues with him. We're not
Of course.
critiquing him nor his followers, but rather when I'm critiquing, I'm usually more concerned with my group. When I'm saying my group, I'm talking about my brothers and sisters in Christ, the Orthodox Christians. I'm not talking about Roman Catholics. I'm not talking about Protestants. I'm talking about our own people, because why will I talk about other people, right? Why will I tell them what they should be doing? Uh, so that's kind of like what I want to start with. And definitely, I want to kind of set some boundaries here. We can't really, I'm not advocating at all where we like treat others like trash or say, oh, you're horrible or you're false, so like I don't care about you. Not really advocating for that either. What I'm advocating for is setting up boundaries and knowing the limits between being political, in some sense being politically on the same side with completely being on the same side. And I want to start this with a catastrophe that was on Twitter a couple of months ago. And some people on Twitter sphere might remember this, maybe even outside of Twitter. There's a fly here, gotta kill. Didn't work. Uh, it's called Legion of Saint Ambrose, I think, if I remember correctly, right? That was a catastrophe. Why was it a catastrophe? And not a lot of people had different reasons why they called them feds, which they are. They said this, and that, and those are valid critiques. But my number one problem with them was that it was a religious movement, but it was also a Orthodox and Roman Catholic kind of religious movement, and that did not sit right with me. And we eventually saw the end results. The kind of like the, I don't want to say the owner, but the guy who was heading the Twitter page, who was kind of like had a leader role. He was an Orthodox Christian. He apostatized to Roman Catholicism. That begs the question, you know, the point of a political group is to change things in the world. I get, you know, you can say it that way. But when you lose your soul eternally, what's the point of all of this? I mean, it seems like it seems to completely miss the point of what you're trying to do. And you apostatize from truth and jump into a different lifeboat that is supposed to represent the ark of salvation, but it's just a crappy lifeboat that's going to sink in 5 minutes. What's the point of everything, right? So I also want to bring a contrast to, I mean, I'm not saying we didn't have saints that did not do it. Like Saint Alexander Schmorl is a great example. He was with the White Rose, but the White Rose was not a religious organization, right? It's and a lot of the people in that organization, by the way, I think are scumbags. But Saint Alexander wasn't one because it's not a religious organization, right? When you're entering the, it's concerned with worldly things, and not everything that is worldly is inherently evil. And it was generally, you can say, for a decent cause. You can argue that, but I'm not going to get into the debate. But the reason why I'm pointing them out is I'm trying to contrast what kind of activism you can even validly do in contrast to the activism some people want to do, where they just want to shake hands with people they consider heretics and say, yeah, we can work together. And then it goes down the line of, oh, we actually believe the same thing. Actually, you guys are not even a problem. Why should we even be divided? And that's why a lot of people, when you criticize the theology of different faiths, they get really angry. They get incredibly demonic. They get mad. And they do a lot of crazy things. Why? Because they're primarily concerned with the world. They miss the forest for the trees. Is that the saying? It's basically what
Yeah.
happens with a lot of those people. They forget the heavenly cause and give it up for the earthly cause. What is the earthly cause? Some political unity that is, realistically speaking, not really going to function. So I'm not negatively speaking against what, for example, America First is about, right? I
Right.
think that's actually a good example of how something can work, because it's not primarily really religious. Ideally, it should be religious and Orthodox Christian, ideally,
Right.
but we don't get 100% of what we want all the time. Ideally, it's good, right? That kind of stuff. But uh, when you try to mix it with religion and you bring in ecumenism of the right-wing variety that a lot of people do, I see a lot of them try to do this, it's really damaging, and it just leads to Western civilization worship a lot of
Right.
times, which is really weird if you're doing that as an Orthodox Christian
Yeah.
in some sense, because really what I mean, I think Orthodoxy and Romanism, I guess you can say, is Orthodox fundamentally, but the way it is now is not. So
Right.
that's kind of what I wanted to start with. If you have any thoughts, you can add something as well.
Yeah, no, that I mean, you made some great points there, and I think that that's one of the number one things we look at with America First. You know, it's obviously a predominantly Catholic group of young men, and they
Hmm.
stand for a great message here. Obviously, that like I have Fic Nuentes to thank for the model for the show and everything, and what he's done, you know, for conservatism in this country is great. But when it comes to our faith, you know, we have to be entirely uncompromising. You know, and we need to understand that when we're talking about theological issues, we are fundamentally different from the Latins. You know, we have a lot of
Yeah.
theological differences. We have different structures of the hierarchy. We have a different theology, and unfortunately, you know, that's where it gets a little bit tricky with us when we're discussing these matters in our in our circles. But you know, definitely, it's important to remember that you know some political alliance here on this temporary earth is not worth you know our eternal salvation, which is what you were bringing up, and that's a great point because these political discussions we have are obviously beneficial. We're talking about the course of our nation, and that's something that I take very seriously in the United States, obviously. And right now, what we're looking at, it's not a great situation. So, insofar as politics goes, it's definitely important to know, you know, who's on your side, and largely that's going to be guys who are traditional Catholics, you know, many high church Protestants. So in that sense, it's like, okay, well, we think along the same lines politically, and that's one thing. But then, at the end of the day, when we start having those theological discussions, it can't be something where we're like, well, you know what? Maybe the two lungs theory isn't all that incorrect. Maybe we can somehow reconcile the faith of the Latins with Orthodox Christianity. It doesn't work that way. And that's one thing where when we talk about ecumenism, we understand it as the Latins bending the knee to what is the true faith, the Protestants coming back to the true faith. We don't understand it as this sort of what really what the West has come to understand ecumenism as, which is, of course, a fundamental misunderstanding where they believe that we can all just kind of mix into one faith, and the Pope can be the head of all of it, and then somehow incorporate the Eastern bishops into it. Some ideal format that they have in their heads, and it can't work that way. That'd be us conceding on our theology and on our ecclesiology, which is something that we can't do.
Yeah, and I make note of this because it very commonly usually happens with, as you mentioned before, between Roman Catholic and Orthodox circles is that, and by the way, I say this as someone who has been in those online communities. Okay, I have tremendous experience on this kind of stuff. I mean, so I kind of see people as kind of like I don't want to use the term lesser, but I can't take people seriously when they jump into this like politics first, religion later mindset, because I experienced what happens when you do that. And if I go into detail, I don't want to go into detail because it's it becomes very degenerate, like sexually degenerate even. I've seen that. Obviously I haven't participated, but I've seen how bad things can go. And the mindset is definitely, like, I can definitely understand the mindset while saying that it's a stupid mindset, but I understand what it is. The mindset is, look, this world is trash. A lot of different bad things are going on. We have a major crisis in terms of moral values, politics, everything. We don't have our freedoms. We don't have anything left in our lives. We can't make money. The government takes it. We can't educate our children properly. The public school system forces us to send them there, and we have to pay a lot of money to send them to private school, which is like public school light. So a lot of things in this world is terrible. And the only way we can fix it is through a return to tradition, right? That's the kind of line they use. That's what these people think, right? That's the logic behind it. And it doesn't really sound bad. And then they look at like the differences between the churches. And they're like, okay, Protestants and us, like us meaning Roman Catholic, like I'm thinking as a trad Roman Catholic here. Protestants and us, yeah, we're too different. Like we have a major history against each other. Okay, but Orthodox, they think, oh, we have 1,000 years of history, but they really don't, because they reject 1,000 years of history, most of it. Only some of it they retain. And the things they retain, they shouldn't retain. They think we have 1,000 years of history. It's all cool, we can shake hands. These are trad, they're anti-modern world as well. But there is just like these like nerdy stuff, like the filioque. Like, how is the filioque going to make my child not go to public school? That's kind of how they think. So it's like, it's just meaningless, right? It's just nerd stuff. It's just a couple of theology nerds getting stuck on something insignificant. That's what these people think. Right. So that is why these people end up being right-wing ecumenists, because they look at the potential of what could be if the two churches supposedly united and somehow there was a trad revival or something like that. And there was a legitimate living institution that fought for that. But there is a legitimate living institution that does in many parishes fight for that. And that's the Orthodox Church. And they want that from their side because a lot of their own churches are down bad. And I'm not saying all churches aren't down bad. Some are, but a lot aren't. And they want a piece of that pie themselves as well. But it doesn't really work that way, because belief, religion, these are fundamental things, okay? And if you read God, History, Dialectic, you will understand something very vital. And the vital thing that you need to understand is your religious worldview ultimately defines how you see the world at all. So your religious views on God or whatever, or morality, for example, can determine how you view politics. Let me give you an example I gave a couple of videos ago. People make fun of the Shiites because the Shiites are, anti-LGBT and all that, but they they allow people to, change their gender, right? The gender surgery. And people make fun of that and say, oh, that's so stupid. Why do they let that happen? And they like try to find like deviant reasoning. No, no, no. It's a theological reason, because they consider that your soul and body are separate things. So you can have a male body and a female soul. So they see gender reassignment as something, actually a correction of a natural corruption. So they don't have any problem. So that's when you have a view like that, when your anthropology is that way, then it seems pretty natural that you will think that way, right? It doesn't seem crazy. So they miss that aspect of it, I think, and they shouldn't. And that's kind of what I have in mind at the moment. Like, that's because I talk too much. I want your thoughts as well.
No, you're absolutely right. And so much of the time we see that type of stuff going on. We see people like idealizing, this sort of dream of the unification of the faiths, and it becomes very problematic. And again, when it oh, David, you there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
No, you're good. When it comes down to it, it's like, we have, again, fundamentally different views on something that is very, very important. And I think that, a lot of it is, as Orthodox Christians, obviously we understand that this world is going to degrade. I mean, plain and simple, we see that, the
Hmm.
end times are inevitable. And of course, Roman Catholics and Protestants tend to agree with that. Totally fine that the end times are something that is going to happen, and the earth itself, as we know it right now, is not going to exist forever. But when it comes down to it, I think, and correct me here if I'm wrong. Obviously, I'm not as theologically well versed as you, but I think there could be even a problem with the Roman Catholic idea of created grace versus our way to attain theosis. Right? It's very, very
Hmm.
different, and I think that this is something where we can
Yep.
understand that we can see we can attain theosis here on earth. We can become Christ-like, and it's something we constantly
Hmm.
strive for, rather than it being something that only happens after we die. And so I think that
Yeah.
there's a fundamental disconnect there.
On that example, I won't speak for the Roman Catholics here, but definitely for the Protestants, I think their view is kind of like it's kind of like, oh, like they think God, like I'm impersonating their vision of God, not, God forbid I make fun of him, right? But
Right.
they think that, oh, I'm gonna follow God's commandments, and I'm just gonna be a good Christian, and I'm gonna have faith. And then like they think in their vision, God looks at them, I have give him 100 morality points, and I'm gonna put him to heaven with me. That's not really how it works. But a lot of their view kind of sounds similar to that. Um, our view is more of an ontological change in our nature, a transformation, a real transformation. And even something as small as that can vastly change how you're supposed to be acting on this world. For example, I hear this kind of reasoning all the time, is that, well, don't you agree this world is going bad? And you will say, yes. So you should fight against it, yeah, right? You should fight your enemies and those who, uh, cause this. And for example, they might, I'm not going to fit those, but you should redact it, these people, they will argue, for example. Well, how's that going to, I mean, that in your mind, you're basically saying that's going to be good for the world, but is that going to be good for me, is kind of thing. Is that going to be, I mean, what happens if I just like 10 years later I get a psychological trauma because of this, and it just makes me a worse person, right? So, and I'm not like trying to be a passive, like anyone who knows me knows that I'm not a pacifist guy. I'm just giving an example of um, how it isn't as simple as, when you have different systems like this. It isn't as simple as a lot of people think. So it causes massive divergences, but a lot of these people, they don't realize this because they don't even spend time to think, what are these theological differences that are the foundations for these people's political views? They don't, I think they should spend time thinking about that before they kind of go for that. Definitely agree.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and a lot of these guys, unfortunately, they just think that theology is something to be talked about by, a couple people who read a lot of books and who go to church a lot,
Yeah.
and it's like for the rest of
Hmm.
them, well, politics essentially, for some of these people, politics is their salvation. Politics is where they find their peace, whatever. And that's again where it becomes very, very troublesome, because we don't understand the world that way. And like you said, there are just some our worldviews are just simply based off of different ideas, different, I guess,
Hmm.
presuppositions. We see the world in a very, very different way. And again, it's not to say that when it comes down to politics, when we're trying to do things like what was going on back in November and December, even in January, the Stop the Steal rallies here in the U.S. It's like, yeah, you
Hmm.
saw a lot of people from varying faiths. Obviously, especially you saw
Hmm.
Catholics and Protestants out there. A lot of evangelical type groups. That's great, whatever. When you go to the March for Life, you see different groups out there. A lot of different Catholic diocesan banners, a lot of different evangelical groups, and that's
Yep.
great. And
Yep.
obviously, when we're uniting for a cause like that to protect, the unborn, that's one thing. And we're
Yep.
uniting in a common cause for something that is objectively morally good. I mean, that's a very, very different thing than when it comes to the actual intricate pieces of our faith. And I mean, even then, even when you attend those sorts of events, David, I don't know if you've ever been to something like that. I'm sure you have, but yeah, here in the U.S., it's rough sometimes, because you go out there and you have these like Protestant street corner pastors out there with like a megaphone, and they're out there
I've
talking
seen
about
them
how,
numerous times. Yeah.
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 Yeah. And they're out there talking about how, oh, the Catholic Church is, the whore of Babylon and things like that. And it's like, well, I mean, right. I mean, on the one hand, as an Orthodox Christian, it's like, but they
But they
rarely
will say
ever
the same
call us.
thing about us if they knew
Of
about us.
course.
So like
Of
I'm
course.
like, yeah, screw those guys
Right.
when I hear that.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's exactly what I'm getting at. It's like there are so many of those differing views. So even when we're united in a common cause like that, it's still something that is very prevalent. It's something that's not hard to hide, because we're in a group like that together. When we are all united in a common cause, we spend a lot of time with each other. Yeah, we're gonna have that type of, okay, that moment where we realize we all agree on political things, but then we start having those theological discussions. And again, we run into that issue. And too much of the time, people who do, and especially this is a problem on the Orthodox side, people who do just think that theology is something to be discussed, by a couple of select people who, decide to set up YouTube
Yeah.
channels, or only by priests, you know, that's where, especially myself in the past, found myself saying, well, I guess you bring up a valid point there. As a Catholic, I guess that, the Pope technically still is, the Apostolic See of Rome. So why couldn't we just have, an Eastern Rite that was Orthodox, and the Orthodox Church just coming over and becoming Byzantine
And the
Catholic?
only people that can prevent that from happening, you're telling them to STFU. I'm
Yeah.
like, how does that make any sense with these people? Yeah, I heard that so many times. They think these people are so stupid, man. I can't even pretend to take them seriously. Like, oh, dude, in the ancient times, I think only the monks and saints talked about theology, not the late. It's like,
It's the exact
man,
opposite.
yeah. I mean, it's the opposite, and if they saw some of the things that were going on, I mean, for example, Saint Gregory the theologian, when he left his seat in Constantinople, they elected like a politician to be the bishop of Constantinople, because well, he's good at politics and we need a bishop that's good at politics. And he says, I believe he's Saint Nectarius. So, and he was a layman, like he was just a, I think he wasn't even baptized. Like it was that crazy. And he's like, "Oh, okay, cool. I'll be a bishop." And it just gets baptized and it's like ordained as bishop. And it's like that's the kind of stuff that happened. And then you're telling me that we should follow these like pseudo hierarchies that you made up in your head. That's totally true. No, it's not true. Okay. And yes, theology is not something that's for merely for high IQ nerds. It's for the fools of Christ as well. It's for the normies. It's for the laity. We all have a duty to learn and to know more about God and to love wisdom, right? To love knowledge. And it starts with self knowledge, it starts with knowledge of God, which is self knowledge. And it's not merely intellectual, it's about lifestyle. And that's why I make the point of worldviews is that these different views really change how you should view the world. Whereas, for example, me personally, I was very influenced by the kind of Roman Catholic Western view of political activism for a very long time. So I thought of like these things the way I just made fun of people who think that way. I used to think that way myself. So I'm making fun of myself like 3 years ago, right? Even 2 years ago. Um, and there's going to be some Orthodox that know me before I had the channel that will definitely say, yeah, like he was like this, but now he's like saying the opposite. I'm not contradicting myself. I'm realizing I was wrong. And I think the sooner people realize they're wrong about this, I think it's better for everyone involved. Otherwise, we're just going to become a bunch of idiots we're just gonna be a bunch of secular atheists that use religion for aesthetics, and no one wants to do that. It is a real factor. And as you pointed out, this doesn't mean that we can, like, yeah, on pro-life issue, definitely. I mean,
Right.
the Catholic Church, some of the people have done amazing, way better than we did, in fact,
Right.
and we should
Right.
do better. Um, I don't deny that. I will definitely walk side by side with a Roman Catholic on a March for Life, definitely. But I won't walk side by side with him in a religious organization. Definitely, I won't. Um, I think where you need to draw the line, and a lot of people kind of forget to draw that line, both in terms of like physical, organizational sense, and also in terms of, I guess, spiritual sense. They forget to draw that line. And as I said, what's the point of all these earthly things when you're going to lose your soul by compromising the faith? There's no point, right? And that's kind of, I also have another thing, but if you have anything else to mention, I can move the topic to something more spicy on this regard, because I do have something to say that made a lot of people mad in the past, and I'm more than happy to make you idiots mad again. I don't have any issues.
Yeah, no, definitely. I want you to. I just want one quick thing I want to bring up.
Hmm.
I think that the unfortunate reality here in the West, especially more so than what you're going to find in Eastern European countries, that are perhaps predominantly Orthodox, is that what we see in the United States, especially, is that there's really no there really are no major Orthodox Christian groups, especially on college campuses.
Hmm.
Like we have the
Yeah.
OCFs, the Orthodox Christian Fellowships, which
Yeah.
are, for the most part, they're great. But we need more. We need to be on that same level
Hmm.
as the Roman Catholics. That's why, yesterday evening I had Father Silouan on talking about Orthodox Africa and the mission work that he's doing out there, which is great. But we need more of that here in the US too, because too much of the
Hmm.
time we have people, Roman Catholics and Protestants especially, who have heard of Orthodoxy, but a lot of them are just kind of under the impression that maybe we're some sort of Eastern European or Slavic version of Catholicism. And that's even the way that we're portrayed in some movies, where it's like there's no differentiation. And people look at the Orthodox Church and they just ask, who are those funky looking Catholics? And it's like,
Hmm.
that's not how, we can't allow for that to be our reputation. We need to do better when it comes to our mission work. We need to do better when it comes to our evangelism here in the United States. One thing I had a friend of mine on a couple weeks ago, and we were talking about how there are of course, valid critiques of the anti-Trinitarian faiths of the Mormons and the Jehovah's Witnesses. But the
Hmm.
one thing they do right is going door to door and asking people if they've heard about their faith. We honestly, like, I can't say that I'm opposed to that for evangelism. I mean, there's something that we need to do here in the United States, especially, and I'm sure over where you are as well, where we have to work on getting people to know who we are, what we stand for, why we are the true faith, because too many of them just think that we're, again, just funky looking Catholics. So that's what I wanted to say
Yeah,
about that.
yeah, yeah. I want to add on that is that my friend mentioned this to me a couple of days ago. I think he talked about this on Twitter as well. When you look at the letters of Julian the Apostate, that idiot, that complete loser nerd, who apostatized. Julian the
Mhm.
Apostate got mad that Christians will constantly practice virtue, almsgiving, all of that kind of stuff, and he will beg pagans to do the same things. Like,
Mhm.
why are you guys not doing this? And what the point that I'm trying to get to is that if you want to make any political movements as an Orthodox Christian, here's a tip: don't. Here's the second tip: try to make a social movement instead. You can gather your friends. You can even just call a friends group or whatever, and just do the basic things. locally, okay? Because that's how we spread the faith like 2 millennium ago. Millennia ago, I guess that's the correct way to say it. Sorry, I am speaking bad English. I am apologize to your but that's how we proselytized, and that's how we still proselytize. I'm not saying how you look at Balkan countries, you look at Russia, that's still how they do things. Okay, that's how we should be doing things as well ourselves. But I think a lot of people in the US kind of forgot that, or they kind of adopted the American way of like doing things like donations and charity events. And I don't know if I really like that. I think it should be a lot more localized. I think it should be a lot more decentralized. Um, it's not something you shouldn't be able to join any organization and like just put money into it and then leave. It's like, oh, I did my part. No, you have to be active and you have to be out there yourself with a couple of other people. You can feed the homeless, make food for them, uh, find ways to make their lives comfortable for a long time, be their friends, right? Like even 10 minutes of talking with homeless people. That's an interesting thing that I just remembered. The number one biggest reason why homeless people go psychopathic and mentally ill is because everyone ignores them, right? And try playing the homeless for a week or two. Like you're just in the middle of the street, you're just sitting there and everyone passes by you and no one even looks at you, and those that look at you, they're like looking at you like trash. Yeah, try to survive that, buddy. It's going to be really cool because it's not about being poor, it's about being a nobody. And that's what really drives them crazy. And so even something like that actually really helps those kinds of people. It's not even the food, right? It's that interaction. And that's what we had the Parabolani that did that. And then guess what happened with the Parabolani afterwards? Well, everyone became a Parabolani in concept, but then they become a they kind of became a militia.
Right, right, right.
Don't make that mistake, because that actually destroyed Parabolani. But
Of course, disavow, disavow.
yeah, but monks did that. A lot of laity did that. So you can do that yourself as well. Nothing is really stopping you. It's a
Right.
very good possibility for you to practice your faith. But of course, this is the big problem with the meme virus, right? It's so difficult to do that now. I mean, you could do that a year or two ago, but now you can't because, oh, you're gonna try to feed the homeless. Well, I think some countries, like you can't even give them food anymore because it might be sick and you might end up killing them. Like that's what these people think. It's like, oh my goodness, man, like we have this going on right now. But this isn't a meme fire stream, but I'm just kind of giving ideas of what you can do instead. That is much much better for you, and it makes a lot of people like you a lot more than like getting LARP flags and just like marching while you have like a fat gut and you look unhygienic and you look like a disgusting pig. Like, I'm not going to name the person, but his name starts with Matt Heimbach, right? You don't be like that guy. Don't be like those kinds of people. Don't be like those degenerates who like they look ugly, they look disgusting, and they don't do anything worldly. They just like walk with LARP flags like, oh, there we go, make a
Yeah.
wish. You look like a complete tool, bro.
Yeah.
And you can't like that is not going to help you. Now, almsgiving, helping people, talking with people who need it, you know, it's a gay term, but mental health care, the proper way, the Orthodox way, is
Yes.
definitely going to be of much help. And that's where you can organize some things. If you go to a parish in the US, if you're regular and you know your community, people know you, that's something you can easily organize with your priest. I'm pretty sure priests will love to be some part of something like that. And
Right.
finally, if you're a college student and you're trying to go look for a job, it looks great on the CV. Why are you not doing it?
Right.
It looks great on your CV as well. So if you have free time, definitely this is something you can do. But of course, I understand if people cannot do this because we live a 4-hour life, and
Right.
people want to spend their 4 hours of freedom with what they want to do. So I don't I'm not judging you guys. Don't worry. If I were judging you guys, I would be a hypocrite. Just saying.
Right. No, I know exactly what you mean. And that's something too where, when it comes to that type of evangelism, like you said, things like almsgiving are a key tenet of our faith. This is what we can do, to help people to spread our faith, and not to dwell too long on the topic of evangelism, but I think it's very important, that we do address this in different ways that we can do this. And again, I've encouraged it before, and I'm going to encourage it again. If you're a young man and maybe late high school, entering into college, talk to your spiritual father about possibly entering into the seminary. If you think that's something that might be in store for you, pray about it a lot, obviously, and talk to your spiritual father about it, because right now, we need more priests than ever who are, I hate using these terms, but based and red pilled. You know what I mean? Because it's like
Mm-hmm.
at this point, we're seeing a lot of them, especially the ones that guys like Orthodoxy and Dialogue are reposting. A lot of them who are, becoming more liberal. They
I
are
don't know of orthodoxy. I know of paganism in dialogue. I know of
paganism, yeah,
idiocy and
exactly.
idiocy. Shitting from their mouth. I know that. I don't know orthodoxy in dialogue. I've never heard of
Yeah, exactly,
that.
exactly. Yeah, they're stupid. I can't stand that whole Twitter and newsletter, whatever it is. But regardless, this is something that's very important when we have young men who are interested in the faith, who want to start reading. Make sure you have a good relationship with your spiritual father. Make sure that you are regularly attending church. Make sure that you are, doing exactly what you have to do to start learning more, because now is the time, when we are entering into this strange period in our world, and it's only going to get worse from here. We need more than ever the right men who are going to stand up for the faith. And the number one way to do that is, of course, entering into the priesthood. And if that's something that God is calling you to, it is critical that you answer that call. And I think that when we're talking about evangelism, that's obviously very important. Another thing too, like you mentioned, there are a lot of these guys out here who are partaking in these pointless political rallies, who have terrible physiognomy. So, as much as we need to get into the library of our minds, hit the gym, libtard. We need to start working out our physical strength. We need to start, making sure that we're
Mm-hmm.
encouraging groups of young men to go to the gym together, to go on runs together, and encouraging strength of
Mm-hmm.
mind, body, and spirit. Those are key things. And when you have truly a Christ-centered life, these are all going to fall into place. And that's something I had David
Mm-hmm.
Patrick Harry on back in like November. And we were talking about the importance of the synchronization, of your body, with your prayer life, and the way that both of those things end up working to benefit your life overall, because they both
Mm-hmm.
have to do with how well disciplined you are as an individual. So again, not to dwell too long on evangelism, but I think that's very important.
And this is how we do evangelism. It's fully, it's not just go. That's why it's difficult. Like a lot of people make the criticism of us, say, "Oh, you don't do door to door." Well, it's easy to do door to door evangelism when your whole faith is literally do the sinner's prayer. It's really easy to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, it's difficult to do that when there's so many things you have to do. Conversion means a full-on repentance. Repentance is not an easy thing. So it's not like, that's why a lot of people, oh, you don't have the Protestant missionary spirit. Well, you're bragging about finishing a game on easy mode, dude. Like,
Mm-hmm.
shut up.
Yeah,
Shut up, dude.
exactly.
But what the spicy thing I want to get to is,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
talked
yeah.
about Roman Catholics and like the West. I want to go east now. And
Okay.
this is where people get very uncomfortable from my experience, because it's a sacred cow for a lot of these people. Even for a lot of the based and red pilled it's a big sacred cow, and I've seen this happen for weeks now, where you see non-Chalcedonians telling us that we should recognize their martyrs and that we should call them their martyrs, or we should shut up or whatever. And this kind of stuff just pisses me off, dude. First of all,
Wait.
who
Who is
are
that
you
guy
to tell us?
on Twitter? I know
Do you want
exactly
to
who you're talking about.
name?
I know exactly who
I
you're
know who
talking
he
about.
is. Yeah,
Name him.
he's.
Let's go.
Do you want to name him? He is a. I'll just say this. His only W is taking a massive L from Turks 100 years ago. How about that? We leave it at that.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect.
Ooh,
Perfect.
that's the spice I love. Okay. Um, hey, at least I recognized it. Okay, some don't
Yep,
even
yep.
do that. Whatever L that is. That reminds me, like, you some Turk posters are like some Turkish people are like, oh, Turks are so bad, they're like genocide the most. It's like Turkey #1, and like flex, and it's the Turkish flag. It's like that's the spirit. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I think it's a Shillman or whatever. I don't know. But like he just gets mad at, like, people like that just get mad. First of all, who are you to tell us what to do?
Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
You're not even a part of the church. Who are you? And by the way, you think we're Nestorians, you think we're heretics. So why are you asking recognition from us? That's like the strangest thing. For example, if a Roman Catholic said, oh, well, Saint Nicholas is a great leader, but he died for the Orthodox faith, but I won't say he's a martyr. If you, like, or like anything like that. If a tradcath said that, well, first of all, I will say, well, you have uniate, so
Right.
think about what you just said. But second thing is like, yeah, whatever you want to say, bro. I don't care what you think about Saint Nicholas.
Right.
You should care about what God thinks of you, whatever you say about him. Like that's what you should care about. But I don't really. It's like I want you. I care about you being Orthodox or Catholic. And like I care about you being part of the true church. I don't care about what you like, because you're just being consistent. It's like the same thing. Why should I get mad at like other people of other faiths being zealous?
Right.
I want our people to be zealous. Why should I get mad at them for being zealous for their faith? So, but like when you like constantly like push this Funko Pops narrative, it's like, oh, these oppressed guys. Like a lot of them kind of forget the kind of stuff that goes on. Okay,
Right.
and I don't want to go like, because I'm Middle Eastern myself. I'm Turkish. Okay, like
Hmm.
Turkey is Middle East, so I live in the Middle East. I'm part of the group I'm criticizing. That's a lot of people forget that. Um, but like they act like these. I think it's more disrespectful for those people that died and probably might have gone to heaven. I don't know. I don't make that judgment. The Holy Spirit didn't give me that power, but uh, or anything like that. But I think it's more disrespectful for those people if you treat them like Funko Pops, where you tell online people to like consider them, bro. Like let them rest in peace.
Hmm.
Let them
Hmm.
rest in peace. Let them have their solace, man. Like chill out.
Yeah.
And it just gets pushed out so much. And the moment you say something that resembles the Orthodox position, and to say no, we don't recognize them as martyrs because they didn't die in the church, they didn't die for the true faith, they just get incredibly angry, and it's just annoys
Demonic.
more and more people. Yeah. And I've had people, I'm not even joking, I've had people write pornographic fanfics about
Yep.
me just because I took this position. You know
I
this. Like
remember
you can
that.
confirm
Yes.
this
Yep.
happened. Yeah. Just because I took this stance. So look at the people we're dealing with, man. Like this is the kind of things that they end up doing. And all we're doing is just repeating what the fathers say, and we're being respectful. We're not saying they've gone to hell. Roman Catholics do that, but I've seen trads do that. We're not saying that either. We're
Right.
just saying, it would be better if he was Orthodox.
Right.
Then we will say, yeah. But then you won't say they were martyrs. But
Right.
now on that topic, I want to make the comment. Obviously, there's a lot of persecution against Christians all over the world, not just in the
Hmm.
Middle East, but all over the world. And the persecution in the Middle East is particularly in some regions. Oof. I
Yeah.
mean, kudos to those people who retain their faith.
Yeah.
But please don't tell me to, how can I formulate this better? Um, please don't tell me, like, because it's a slippery slope. Okay. The first step, you say, oh yeah, they're martyrs. And then you say anyone who died by Muslims are martyrs. Okay. And then people ask, okay, why don't you canonize these people in your church? So you recognize them as martyrs. Why don't you push that? And it
Right.
just goes. And then suddenly people are going to start debating whether we should canonize Coptic martyrs in the
Right.
Orthodox Church. And no, we shouldn't do that. That doesn't, we don't have to make a stance.
Right.
So we're not
And
making a stand. We're not required to.
right. Yeah, and that's a great point. The key there to note is we're not making a stance. It's not that we are disrespecting them, but I mean what it comes down to, like I can remember over the summer, I was in like some weird like ecumenistic group on Facebook, and it was like Eastern Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy similarities and differences, something like that. I thought it was interesting, so I joined up and I asked. I was like, "Oh, is Tsar Saint Nicholas II a saint in the Eastern Catholic Church?" And they all like, I just got like a bunch of laugh reacts, and everyone was like, "No, like he actively persecuted Eastern Catholics, blah blah blah," and which I didn't know at the time,
Good.
but yeah. But I mean, it's like, here's the thing, like we are dealing with such a we really end up butting heads on issues like that because of the differences in our theology, what our faiths taught that was so different, and how those martyrs ended up, they were martyred in the Orthodox Church for a reason. You know, it's like they died for the true faith. So obviously, we recognize them as, at the very least, passion bearers. They are saints, and you know, there are several examples of that within the Orthodox Church. And what it comes down to is, you know, how far are we willing to go? Like you said, with this, it's like we can't just start looking at Roman Catholic martyrs and canonizing them. Now, that's not to say that, you know, they didn't believe with all their heart and die for their faith. That, I mean, that's whatever. But this
Mm-hmm.
is something where, you know, we don't, and like what this one man on Twitter was talking about with these
God,
Coptics, it's like,
God loves them. He will judge
right,
them the best he can. We don't need to make any comments. Who cares about what comments we make?
right,
That's
exactly.
my
It's not
position.
up to us. Yeah, it's not up to us.
So
And
I won't
so
even like. I mean, I think saying they will like. I won't mind saying it. I just think that even saying that is being too nice. Like we're
mhm,
going out of our ways to reaffirm. Really, the position, the ideal position, should be just zip. It's like
yep,
not
exactly.
part of my church, not my responsibility. Okay, my responsibility is with my own brothers and sisters. You're not one of them. You should be one
Right,
of them, but you're not one of
right,
them, and he
right,
wasn't, unfortunately.
exactly.
So,
Yeah.
um, as I said, Saint, I think it was a Russian saint that said it, but like he emphasized, you know, why do you care about the heterodox? God loves, they have a savior who cares about
Yeah.
them and loves them, and he will look after them. I definitely 100% agree. So that's why I don't really like, yeah, it's, oh yeah, it's sad that Christians are getting persecuted, but let's not also forget, what does the Old Testament say? If you abandon the faith and if you treat it frivolously, what happens to you? That's what happens to you. Persecutions,
Mm-hmm.
you lose your nation. And when you point it out, you're the bad guy. But when God points it out to Moses, I guess that he's not. When Moses points it out to his congregation, I guess he's not a bad guy. Or
Right.
maybe, and this will be a crazy thought experiment, but maybe these people didn't even read the Bible.
Right.
Maybe
Truly, truly. You
crazy,
know?
but might be the truth. But um, so Saint Gregory Palamas, I've heard someone say this, but he said we deserve to be invaded by Muslims by the way we act. And
Right,
honestly, he was right. And
right,
I say
right.
this as someone who's a big Roman Empire fanboy. I will be the happiest person on earth if it somehow came back.
Yeah.
But we don't deserve it. Like why do I deserve it? I mean, I play video games every day and I sit at home and I eat and I sleep. Why do I deserve a Roman Empire, bro? Why do you
Right, right.
deserve a Roman Empire? What do you do? Right?
Yeah,
Even if you pray a lot, what do you do? What do you deserve? You
right,
don't deserve it, right? So
right.
we can't act. It's pride. And on the topic of what happens in the Middle East, um, it, this will be a crazy thesis, hot take, but I think right wing ecumenism, it doesn't even originate in the West. It originates in the Middle East with a lot
Mm-hmm.
of political movements, with the kind of living attitude they have there. And by the way, I say this as someone who considers Middle Eastern Christians as as the most legitimate continuation of Roman culture, both the good and the bad,
Mm-hmm.
even more so than Greeks in a lot of ways. This is just my opinion. I might be wrong. I might change it in the future, but that's what I think. So when I say that, that means I take them like consider them a very high status. But
Mm-hmm.
when I see stuff like, oh, I go to Orthodox church, but I take communion in the Roman Catholic Church, and then I go and take communion to the non-Chalcedonian Church. When I hear that, and it happens all the time, I just think, yeah, this is yeah. No wonder you have so many issues there. No wonder
Yeah.
so many bad things are happening because you treat God like a play toy. You
Yep.
treat God like he's just something that you can just eat and then spit. But that's not what you're supposed to be doing. It's severely disrespecting God. And when you point out you're the bad guy, but I'm used to it, because it just gives me energy, right?
Right.
And I love energy. I love that psionic energy they're giving me. But no, really, jokes aside, I mean, people have to have discernment and look at these things, and they can't just have sacred cows because, oh, they can do that because they have tough times. I mean, it's like pro-abortion arguments, right? Like they say, oh, but what if a woman gets raped and she's pregnant? Should she not have abortion? It's like,
Straw man.
yeah, that sucks. She got raped. That sucks. But um, we don't like if she became a murderer, that will suck even more. That will be even
Right.
worse. Yeah, yeah, she didn't want a kid, and yeah, she is burdened with a responsibility she's not supposed to have. Guess what? You're burdened with responsibilities. Like you don't choose who you're born from. Sometimes some responsibilities you don't choose. You don't choose them.
Right.
It's the reality of life. Yeah, it sucks. It's injustice. We live in a fallen world. So, but sometimes you have to take the responsibilities because the counter example, I guess, will be um, you being a murderer,
Hmm.
and you don't want to be a murderer. That's a bigger responsibility you don't want to take on. So I consider it in that same level. It's like, oh, what if he doesn't have any church other than the, I don't know, the Nestorian one in his neighborhood?
Hmm.
Don't go there.
Right.
Like, okay, you're missing out on, what are you missing out on? You're missing out on social life. You're missing out on a community. What are you not missing out on? An
Faith.
eternal crown in heaven.
Yeah. Exactly.
I know what I'm gonna be trading for.
Right.
Like try telling me exactly. For example, if I lived in Trabzon, because in Trebizond right now, there aren't any Orthodox churches, from what I
Oh, wow.
remember. There is a Roman Catholic church. If I lived in Trabzon, should I go to the Roman Catholic Church just because that's the only apostolic church I can go to there? Of course not.
Right.
And I think of it the same. And Trabzon, by the way, will persecute you for being a Christian. By the way, just
Wow.
letting you know, they don't like Christians. It's a very Muslim conservative area, although it's being invaded by Arabians. Funny enough, a lot of Turks don't like that, but that's a different topic. But I think right wing ecumenism is fundamentally a Middle Eastern kind of concept that came up. Um, in America, it's kind of like new. So that's a,
Right.
that's a hot take of mine. I don't know if you agree,
Yeah,
or your
I do. I
viewers,
mean,
for that matter.
yeah, yeah. No, speaking as an American, I mean, I would definitely agree with that. And I actually, I mean, most of you guys know this, but my girlfriend is Lebanese, and her family's from there, and they've experienced that
Mm-hmm.
firsthand. It's like, there's definitely a lot of that going on, and like I think Sneck posted about it a couple weeks ago on Twitter, like a joke, but he was like, on the way to my Muslim right parish, like Middle Eastern Christians be like, on the way to my Muslim right parish, to worship Saint Muhammad or
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
And it's like,
yeah. I've seen that.
and it's like, but here's the thing, that is something that has been going on there for a long time, and I think it's even a tradition in the Maronite Catholic Church on Holy Thursday or or on their Good Friday, to go to like 8 different churches of different, for lack of a better word, denominations, and like go and visit these churches because they all think that they are like preaching the same thing and they mean the exact same thing. And so it's like, yeah, there's definitely a lot of that going on in the Middle East that I would agree with you. That's probably where it comes from. And now it's carrying over into the United States. And whereas in the Middle East, it's really very similar because there are political affiliations between the, again, for lack of a better term, denominations. So they
Mm-hmm.
end up seeing that and seeing they can, use that to their advantage. So they ally in terms of politics, forgetting about the discrepancies between their faiths. And that's something that is literally happening word for word here in the United States. When we see a country so divided, a country that is, God forbid, looking like it's on the brink of civil war. I mean, we have people who are looking to different faiths for the answer. So you're right. It's not a totally different scenario. And while it is perhaps a new phenomenon here in the U.S., it's not. It's certainly not foreign to us, and we see it all the time. I mean, that's essentially what happens when we have these big umbrella groups. People who identify as conservative, or even people who identify as traditionalist. They're
Mm-hmm.
willing to sacrifice to a certain degree what they believe, and whereas that may not be so much of a problem for these churches
In
who
politics,
profess.
compromise is okay, but in the faith, you can't do that.
Right. And that's exactly right. And where I was going with it is, it's like, these Protestant churches who believe in an invisible church of some type,
Hmm.
it's not so problematic for them. They can just kind of go and visit. Oh, I'm not really feeling this church this week. Let's go try,
Yeah.
the other church down the
I
road.
feel a little I feel a little Calvinist
Right.
today. I'm gonna go to the
Right.
Calvinist church. It's like,
Right.
oh, I don't like that. I'm feeling a little Anglican, although Anglican depends on low church Anglicans, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, that's exactly right. And I had actually a buddy of mine who goes to the Western Rite Parish that I attend every now and then. And he said, oh yeah, before I became Orthodox, I was jumping around to different churches, every week trying to see what best fit
Hmm.
me. And it's like, well, I mean, they don't understand that there is one true church. It's not a
Hmm.
matter of trying to figure out which church works best for you. So for them, it's not a
Hmm.
problem. Roman Catholics, unfamiliar with their own doctrines on the large scale, still, again, don't see a problem with it. If there's a high church Anglican church near them or an Episcopalian church, oh well,
Well, they have
it
the
still doesn't matter.
sacraments, they
Right,
think sometimes. Yeah.
exactly. And people who, and again, it's a problem in the Middle East. Massive amounts of intercommunion. Just not
Hmm.
really willing to notice these differences. I mean, and obviously in Lebanon, you have the Maronites, you have the Melkites, you have the Greek Orthodox, and all of the, and not to mention the Muslims, but especially within those Christian groups, uh, they don't really notice the differences. So a lot of the time, if there's a Melkite church that doesn't have a priest that week for whatever reason, the Greek Orthodox priest would go over there and serve the liturgy, and it's like, wait a
Yeah.
second, like that, you can't do that.
Yeah,
So
you
yeah,
can't really do that.
yeah,
And this
uh,
happens so often, like because every time you do like theological review of monophysitism, they always bring this up. It's like, oh, but in the Middle East they do intercommunion. Well, yeah, everyone is wrong there, including our side. Like they shouldn't be doing that at all. So, and I had people from their side telling me in private, it's like, why are you like, why are you being like this? Why are you trying to like make us look wrong? Don't we have bigger issues? I honestly, if I was that guy, I will have probably said, yeah, you are one of our issues.
mhm,
You are
mhm,
one of those issues. But I was being a nice guy, which I shouldn't be sometimes. But and I said, well, yeah, we have issues, but it's about the truth, man. Like, what can I do? Like, are you gonna tell me not to be orthodox? Like, what can I do, man? Like, that's basically how I ended up being. But no, really, um, it's it's a genuinely a serious issue that even bishops are participating in. Not many people know about this, and when you point it, as I said, it's a sacred cow. I will not be surprised if tomorrow on Twitter someone did something against both of us for saying this,
mhm, mhm.
like some slander, like because that's how mad it makes these people. I'm not even joking. It, it's um like here's the funny thing. You're trying to defend yourself from Muslims, and while defending, like, why you defend yourself? Well, to preserve yourself. How can you preserve yourself when you mix yourself with other faiths to protect yourself? That's not preservation. It's like the opposite of preservation. Are
Exactly.
you like I'm very bad at science, not because I hate science. Like I've always been not so good at science, but it's like mixing two ingredients, like you're trying to preserve ingredient X, you're mixing it in something like in
Mhm.
lava, and it's just like mixes in with lava and it's like not there anymore. Oh, I preserved it. I preserved it. No, you didn't preserve it. You
Right.
destroyed it.
Exactly. Yeah, you concede. That's what ends up happening is they
Hmm.
concede, and again, that's where we get back to, especially the issue. I think right now, it from what I've seen online, and I don't know if you agree with this, but right now it looks like the two faiths that are most highly contested or kind of butting heads more than ever right now. Well, maybe not more than ever. I mean, I'm sure there are times, there are definitely times in the
Hmm.
past where it's been worse, but the two faiths that we look at right now online that are really clashing are Catholicism and Orthodoxy. And I don't even want to say
Yeah.
Catholicism, but the papists and Orthodoxy. And I mean, these guys like Scott Hahn and all of them, they can't shut up about us. Taylor Marshall, another one. It's like these are people
Yeah.
who are talking about us nonstop because they are losing a lot of their followers to Orthodoxy. A lot of guys are starting to watch Jay. I mean, I think the question is starting to be asked by these people, like, why are you not hosting Jay? Why are you not choosing to give Jay a platform? Obviously, you and I know the answer. It's that they're terrified and they know that they wouldn't win in a debate. But I mean, at the end of the day, they realize that they're losing a lot of their own followers to Orthodox Christianity, which of course we look at as a massive win, and God looks at that as a massive win because it is the true faith and
Mm-hmm.
their souls are being saved. But I mean, what we see here is this very highly contested these two faiths being very highly contested in the United States and online. Period. So it's something where right now that's kind of what we're looking at is people are looking to, like we mentioned earlier, return to tradition, and they're looking at one of these two faiths. Now I think that there's that weird moment where they look at Catholicism as a faith that could save the West, and I think that for
Mm-hmm.
a lot of these people who are really just more focused on being trad, that's when they end up converting to Catholicism. That's when they
Yeah.
end up converting to paganism because that's all they're interested in. That is salvific
Yep.
for them.
Saving the West. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
got I gotta hire my cottage core wife. Let me try to get the Norwegian accent or Nordic sky. I want to have a cottage core wife, and I want to have white children, 5 of them. And I want to have my little village where it's just me and my wife, and I can do whatever I want. And then like you look at the Discord DMs and they're like texting rainbow flag
Yeah,
people and
yeah.
or like they're like I've literally seen this, I've witnessed this happen. I have friends that went through this. I had a friend who had a this they were in this whole like political salvation thing, and he had a GF and the GF cucked him like with someone else, and like I say it in this sense, like cheated, right? Like it cheated basically. And it's like there's like yeah, you're trying to save Western civilization with that. That's what you're trying to
Yeah,
save it. Like you
right,
you have a problem with promiscuity and all that, and like how do you act? Like you act like a promiscuous whore. Uh,
right.
Not gonna say the best with you or like, and it just ends up being this kind of like tag, like a football team, which is ironic because actually I'm wearing something like a jacket of from my favorite football team. But so I know that mindset very well because I used to have that mindset like when I was in elementary school or even a little bit of high school where I was like very into like my football team. It's when you lose your all of your rationality, you lose all of the reason why you would support in the first place, and you just get mad because no, you support something like vaguely different than mine that actually doesn't really matter, or um you just lose all of your reason and it just becomes this identity that is not really even your identity because you don't live like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a dream, it's a LARP, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
exist in your in your mind nor in your immediate circle. That's why when Jordan Peterson said clean your room, it's a decent advice, but then you look at his room and it's like, have you seen his room? Like
Mm-hmm.
the room his own room. Like sometimes he live streamed from his own room, and it's like you look at his room, it's like what the heck? Like
Really?
he's dirty, yeah. Like his
Oh
room
my.
is very filthy. So, Mr. Peterston, you might need to follow your own advice. And everyone, including us, by the way, us too, right? Us
Yep.
too. Everyone needs to follow their own advice a little bit. We don't
Yep.
want to be like the Pharisees, where Christ says, "Yeah, those guys say good things, but don't do what they do. Like these
Right.
people don't do what they do.
Right.
Not good people. Like we don't want to be pointed at by Christ in that regard.
Right.
Um, we don't want to be bad examples, but yeah, man. I mean, I see this so commonly all the time
Mm.
with these larpers
Yeah.
trying to save the West, and they forget what is Western civilization.
Right.
What even is
Right.
it
Right.
anymore? They can't really explain it
No.
properly. Have you noticed that?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, of course. It becomes very difficult for them to explain it. And I think, there are obviously a lot of problems with, what they believe. And like we've said, they end up making that their faith, and worshiping whatever Western civilization means. But, even beyond that, I think that a lot of this comes from, again, just that attitude. Uh, a lot of it stemming from the Roman Catholics, where they refused to acknowledge, that they were indeed the first Protestants. And I know that, a
Hmm.
lot of that's going to get a lot of Catholics upset, but I mean, seriously, this is something that's been debated multiple times because Catholics, they are very well intentioned. And again, I'm in a lot of these circles online. Guys like Nick are great. A lot of the people I talk with in my group chats, they're fantastic. I mean, very, very rarely, I do not know anyone online who has better political takes than Nick. But regardless, it's like here we
Hmm.
see, the people who try to do more of the apologetics focused stuff, guys like Scott Hahn or Taylor Marshall, they refuse to acknowledge that they were the first Protestants. They're very, very quick to get upset with Protestantism. They're very quick to condemn guys like Martin Luther, who, of course, were wrong. But they fail to look back 500 years earlier or even 1,000 years earlier and see what was going on. What were the theological developments in the West that were beginning to cause this diversion from the true faith? And
Hmm.
they're unwilling to get into the nitty gritty. Of course, everyone can denounce Martin Luther, and everyone can denounce what went on there with him and that nun and the 95 the 95 theses. It's like everyone can denounce that without a second thought, but it's their unwillingness to acknowledge the root of the problem. And we look at the root of the problem in the 10th century, the 11th century, then people furthering heresy like Thomas Aquinas later on. And we look at all of that as the departure from the true faith, which will
Hmm.
inevitably lead to a complete dissolution and destruction of whatever earthly empire you think you've built. Because the key focus of anything earthly has to be Christ. It has to be the true faith. And that, like,
Yep.
Christ himself is what needs to be worshipped, in
Yep.
the true context, which is of course orthodoxy.
And let's not forget the Roman Empire fell because of right-wing ecumenism. A lot of people
Yeah.
forget that in history, but in the last 400 years if you read about it, first of all, I mean, there was a. Let me just tell you this: Saint Nicephorus Phocas got killed by his wife because he was too Christian. When you die because of that, there's something's going wrong. Okay,
Mhm.
uh, and then what happened for the last couple of hundred years? They were trying to defend their political existence by giving up their spiritual existence by all of these reunion councils and whatnot. And you look at all of these emperors, and they're like, they think we can do political compromises, so we can do theological compromises too. It doesn't work that way. It's not the same domain. Okay, and it's like making mathematical compromises. Oh, he says 2 + 2 = 6, and I say 4. Well, we can meet in the middle and say 5. Doesn't really work that way. Okay,
Right.
uh, and when you look at the kind of processes with first the Council of Lyon and then the Florentine Council and how the empire acted on it and the kind of lifestyle change in the empire in terms of the faith, it's really not a surprise that it fell. So when you see all of these Roman Catholics or like even Muslims talk about, oh, we took Constantinople, it's like, yeah, we didn't deserve it.
Mhm.
Like, I'm happy we don't have it anymore because we
Mhm.
will probably be worse if we had it today. So
Mhm.
um, that's a huge feature that a lot of people miss out. Like it's the same thing with the communist Russia. Have you seen how Russia was in the 19th century? I think I don't remember, but like they had some really strange views about nobility and in relation to the church. Something like only nobles can take the uke, like something really strange
Really?
and crazy like that in Russia. Yeah, like it's probably not that, but like it's on that level.
Mhm.
Um, just absolutely insane
Yeah.
stuff going on in Russia before the communist revolution. So can you really say, yeah, Russia was a really good country? Really sad that it went. No, Russia was a really good country when it was Orthodox. Every
Right.
country is a very good country. Even S-holes, like I don't know, like in some random part of the world can be glorious communities and countries when they embrace orthodoxy.
Right.
um, but when they depart from it and if they lose their country, it's
Mhm.
not surprising. That's what happened with the Israelites all the time. Have you
Yep.
ever read the Old Testament, dude? Like, have these people ever
Right.
read the Old Testament? How many times does this happen? It's happening today as well. It's not a
Yeah.
surprise.
No. No.
So when you see,
That's
for example, all these Greeks, and like, believe me, actually, I shouldn't say anything about because the Turkish government won't like me saying this, but you can kind of guess what I was going to say. Look, when you talk about taking Constantinople back, I mean, we're talking about the city has a bigger population than your country, man. You think you're really going to do that?
You're blackpilling a Greek here, man. You're blackpilling a Greek. What are you doing? That's my whole dream right there. Just crushed in a matter of seconds by David the Real Man White. Yeah, no, I
The
mean,
city
yeah,
has a
definitely.
bigger population than your country. Like, come on, you think it's going to happen? And like, while you have so many problems in your own country with the whole meme virus stuff, look, I'll meet you in the middle. If you guys were doing really good job on the meme virus stuff as a country, and you didn't elect baby murdering politicians, and instead elected, good people that really cared about the faith. If that was Greece,
Mhm.
yeah, I think even a million of you will probably, like, even if your population was 1 million, you will probably decimate anyone, like, with God's help. Like, yeah, for sure. In your current state, nah, not really. And
Right.
like, I had like multiple people get really mad at me because of this. Like, some I think some Greek guy like try to make me say that, try to like started like posting pictures of Greeks burning Turkish flags, which I don't really care. I don't really care if the inverse happens. I just don't really care in general.
Mm.
And like, he then pings me. It's like, are you gonna do this? It's like, no, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna burn a Turkish flag because I don't see any reason to disrespect the country I live in. And he's like, oh, you're a whatever, right? You're a cat. You're a synonym of a cat. Um,
Right, right, right.
and then he's just like post pictures of people who like just like did like a bunch of crazy stuff against Turks. It's like, yeah, like, what's your point, man? It's like, you're not a real Orthodox until you do this. So, oh, really? I'm not a real Orthodox until I attack the Turkish state. Where is that from the Bible? Can you point that from
Yeah.
scripture, from the church fathers? None. In fact, they even say, I don't remember which father, but I remember a saint particularly said um something like, you're supposed to love everyone, including Turks. Like, you can't, like, everyone is made in the image of God, including Turks. You can't hate these people even if they attack you all the time. And he lived in a time where Turks persecuted them. He's not living in a time today where Turks are like secular. Okay.
Right.
So it's just a very stupid attitude from a lot of these people. And this goes for, again, anyone. For example, Albanians. I know you're not a big fan of Albanians, but I think you yourself will agree that you'd rather have an Orthodox Albania than an Albania that got conquered by Serbia, but it's not Orthodox,
Right.
right?
Oh,
I think any
absolutely. Any day.
Orthodox Christian will definitely prefer that. So people have just stupid priorities. They need to have, and I don't fault them for initially having them because I used to have these views, but
Sure.
you gotta take that baggage off eventually.
Right.
Did I
Oh
see a
yeah,
ghost
yeah.
behind me? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I mean, you hit the nail on the head there, and this is exactly right. I think what we're looking at, what you were kind of describing, is a little bit of that sense of what's the word, ethnophilatism, and a little bit of the prioritization of the nation or of the certain ethnicity over the faith. And we understand that orthodoxy is something that transcends these values. It is the ultimate, and I mean, this is what we look at when we look at our faith and why we prioritize it over anything and everything else. Regardless of how important our politics are to us or our home, because obviously Turkey is important to you. To me, America is important, and it's something that, like, I love this
Yeah.
country, and I want to stand for it, and
Well,
I
I
just
won't say it's important, but yeah, I get what you're trying to get at. Yeah.
right, 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 right. And I mean, look, I get you.
I'm
Turkey's
not a people think I'm not a Turkish nationalist. Don't get me
right.
wrong. I just think, I just disagree with people who think the Turkish state should be nuclear bombed or anything. I just disagree with
Right, right,
those
right. Of
people.
course.
That's
Well, yeah, and I mean, maybe I'd go a little bit farther with the United States. I mean, it's a country that I love, and I think
hmm
definitely it becomes very difficult. When we look at what's going on in the country today in Joe Biden's America, and I mean, it's like it's a nightmare. It's a hell world for people like me. You know, I mean, and as I've talked about on the show, I feel like, I can't exist. You know what I mean? Like, it's difficult for me
Mm-hmm.
to, everyone that I talk to, and we were talking about this before the show started, everyone I talk to, it's very difficult because in society, they think that you swing left automatically. And it's just kind of that, uh, that's what they start to work off of. That's what the conversation is based off of. Like, oh, have you gotten the jab yet? Like, oh, like, are
Mm-hmm.
you wearing? Why aren't you wearing two masks? Like, and it's like things like
Did you
that. That
did you did you take the protector the protector juice inside your body that is supposed to protect you from getting sick, but you still have to wear a mask, you still have to social distance,
do
but it
everything.
totally works. It's like
Give me
someone made
such
a
a
very
break.
crude analogy. I'm not going to repeat that analogy, but a very crude analogy. I'm trying to find another one. Um, would you wear a bullet? This is a good one. Would you wear a bulletproof vest if it did nothing? Like just
Yeah,
bullets still pass, like, or a knife-proof vest. He wore a knife-proof vest, still got stabbed from the vest side. It's like,
exactly. And
would you wear
yeah,
one then?
people don't get it. I mean, obviously, yeah. It's like with the jabby. It's like, I mean, you and I are on the same page with that, and I'm sure all of our viewers are. But it's like these are what people automatically assume, really doctrines
Mm-hmm.
that people automatically assume you believe in going into society. So it's very
Yeah.
difficult. And, that's where, when we look at the state of our world today, it's situations like those where we find commonalities with those people who are in other faiths, those people who, are profess, that they are Christians. It's like this is where we
Mm-hmm.
look at it and we can see similarities, because chances are you're not going to look at an atheist and see that same perspective. Chances are you're not going to look at a Buddhist, and see that same perspective. I mean, period. What we see is people who are closely enough aligned where we can agree at least on
Mm-hmm.
those basic tenets. Agree on being, again, for lack of a better term, right wing. And that's what's important when we are actively being censored, we're actively being shut down, and on the verge of being killed. I mean, seriously,
Mm-hmm.
for believing what we believe in. So it's in moments like those, in the situation the United States is in today, it is important that we look to more umbrella type organizations like America First. It's critical. I mean, these
Mm-hmm.
are the people who we can band together
Yep.
with. But again,
Mm-hmm.
and as we've covered extensively on the show today, you cannot concede for a moment Orthodox dogma. That has to
Yeah.
that has to remain true. It has to remain protected always. So that's the key, when it comes
Mm-hmm.
to the defense of the faith in the country.
Yeah, and one of my criticisms of America First used to be that it's not religious enough, but now I kind of get, yeah, like, because it is political. I mean, it is a political organization. Politics is inherently about something related to the world,
Right.
and so it actually does make sense that it isn't. I think, in fact, I kind of like the early American model of religious freedom, which is basically religious freedom if you're Christian,
Right.
no religious freedom if you're not Christian. I like that
Yep.
model. I think that model will actually make America work out. Um, you will have your own communities that will actually work out in the long term, other than unlike what we have now. Um, that, for example, I was kind of mulling over before this talk. Is like, is it even possible to have that? Well, America used to have it, because I remember a newspaper clipping. Someone can point this out in the future, or maybe remember or whatever. But it's like certain American presidents or something like that. They like they were like making a speech, and they were like bringing a lot of priests to like bless this speech or something like that. And one of those
Mm-hmm,
priests was an
mm-hmm.
Orthodox priest. And it's like, that to me is not really ecumenistic,
Mm-hmm.
unless the priest suddenly says, "Yeah, thank you for our Roman Catholic brothers." Yeah, that will be that's when it's like, okay, you're going too far. Or when he's not like doing the sign of the cross, right, properly,
Right.
and he's not doing it at all, which is what happened in 2016, the GOP, I think primary, like not, I don't know what you call it, GOP. It's like that, like when the primaries end and you enter the real election mode. Like between then you have like the conferences, like GOP does it and the Dems do. What was
They
it
have like
called
the
again?
Democratic National Convention, like the Republican National
Yes,
Convention.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
DNC. Yeah, yeah,
RNC.
yeah.
Yeah.
DNC and RNC. Yeah, that's exactly what happened in 2016. I think they had an Orthodox priest or a bishop come
Oh,
to
really?
give a speech, and he didn't do the sign of the cross. He didn't say in the name of the Father and the Son of the Holy Spirit. He didn't say anything. He just was a very secular speech from a priest. Father, um, I don't care about your secular speeches. Your whole point is that you're supposed to bring something otherworldly. That's your objective, and that's the kind of view that America used to have, at least. And in a society like America, that's the way it can really work. That's the only way it can work. Again, ideally, how amazing will it be if America was Orthodox Christian? How
Of
amazing will
course.
it be? It's very difficult, especially if you talk to the people. It's going to be very difficult to convert some of these people
Right, right,
because of
absolutely.
how Amalekitish they are. I'll
Hmm.
leave it at that.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
and go ahead. Sorry, were you gonna say something?
no, I wasn't. I wasn't.
Oh,
No.
okay. Well, no, I mean, you're exactly right. And when we look at the current situation in America, the problem with people who are conservative or just generally Republican, a lot of them, this is something that I talk about on the show. One of Nick's key points as well is that they're too focused on small government, right? Their number one thing
Mm-hmm.
is advocating for minimal government interaction with the people. Well, just make sure that as long as no one is harming anyone else, it's a very libertarian talking point. As long as no one's doing any harm to anyone else, well, then we're all fine over here. And of course, we know that's very problematic, and we know that's problematic even because when someone's doing, how about when someone's doing harm to themselves, when someone is, I mean, obviously we know that at the very basic level that's problematic. But even more than that, we need to stop this support for small government. What needs to happen in order for people to take that first step to accepting orthodoxy is to be able to understand that it is fundamentally monarchistic. And what we I mean, that's how Father Seraphim Rose described it, and I wholeheartedly believe that. There is a hierarchy from the top down. And people have to understand that they have to be willing to accept that. And I think that the continuous uh, uh, support for small government does nothing but hinder that. And people believe that as long as they can have, oh, I just need my own rights and I'm fine. And so there's a lot to get into with all of that, but fundamentally that's what we look at when we see a lot of the Protestants here in America. They don't understand that advocacy for small government is doing nothing but hurting them in the long run. And if we're trying to evangelize Orthodox Christianity, they don't like that hierarchical system. They can't fathom exactly what that means. Again, these people are so interested in their invisible church, and they're so interested in not having a hierarchy and being able to read into the scriptures by themselves and cherry pick whatever they want from there. And these are the people who took out 15 or more books from the Bible. And this is what we have to instill in these people is the mindset that in order to understand or to accept orthodoxy, you have to understand that there is a hierarchy. And I think that's very difficult for a lot of Americans, which is unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely. That's probably because of American culture, though. They hate
Yes.
hierarchies in general. I mean, in Turkey, even amongst like a lot of you get like complete liberals, they still recognize hierarchy oftentimes. Whereas, like from my experience, same cannot really be said for the West, and that's because I guess it's just like the fundamental ideals that like we didn't. I'm not. It's not even a V, but for the sake of argument, we didn't have that kind of process. I mean, some countries like Turkey just copy pasted Western
Yeah.
ideals and just prayed, I hope it works. I hope it works. I hope it
Right.
works.
Right.
Uh, and in a way it worked, in a way it didn't work. And I say work in a negative sense because I don't want it to work.
Right.
um, it is bad if it works because it doesn't work out well for us.
Right.
That's a very strange usage of work, but I think you get the point that I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I mean, we have a lot of work to do around the world when it comes to all of this. But I think the key point, what people need to forget, regardless of where they are, is that we need to champion our individualism, I guess, and be able to be proud of who we are. What must come first is the church and the will of God, because at the end of the day, we are a very, very narcissistic society. And I think that that is exemplified nowhere better than in the current state of America. And I mean, you look at it,
Yeah,
right now,
celebrity
people.
worship and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, and I mean even beyond that, you look at a lot of these people who are bowing before BLM and they're worshiping lab coats. This has
Hmm.
become their new religion, and I think that unfortunately
Religion
they've
of the
really.
future moment.
Oh yeah, oh my gosh, yeah, and it's
Right.
like this is exactly the path that we're going down. People who are uh, too proud. Period. I'm not even going to say too proud of who they are. They're just too proud, and that's what happens when you have that insane amount of pride in a nation. I mean, and I'm talking about the individual here, not putting the nation above the interests of the self. But when you're championing your individualism to that degree, that's inevitably what's going to happen. The society will become narcissistic. And these people are so focused on who they are, what their identity is. They don't have any room left to figure out where they stand with God. They don't have
Yeah.
any room left to figure out, what's most important in life. They're too interested in the here
Yep.
and the now to worry about what comes after. I mean, that's really what
Exactly.
it comes down
And
to.
their identity is based on the world, not on who they really are.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever society tells them to be.
So it's like just a bunch of consumeristic nonsense, like Funko Pop stuff.
Funko
And that's why I
Pops,
think a
yeah.
lot of, and that's why I do not like at all when people apply that hermeneutic to Christianity. Um,
Mm.
not a big fan
Can you,
of that because they do that with they do that with saints and their theology. Like they act like have you? I made a quote tweet a couple days ago. Um, it like the tweet itself was like, bring me your hottest church father takes or something like that.
oh
And
yeah,
you
yeah,
read that kind of stuff, it's like these people treat theology like Funko Pops. Like there's no way they aren't. Like for them this is just a game.
yep,
It's just a game for these idiots or absolute degenerates. And I basically said, we don't need hot theology takes from uh fat, disgusting slobs,
yep,
something like
exactly.
that. Um, we who have no idea about God, like, and but they like. I'm not a big fan of that, and people do that with meme culture, but like they make fun of God and like put him in meme cultures, like, make fun of his like icon, like put the meme sunglasses
Yeah,
on
on the
saints. Roman
icons
Catholics do it all the time. Yeah,
all the time, all
it's
the
like
time.
it's like you kiss your icons with that mouth. What are you doing, dude?
Right,
It's like,
right. Oh, exactly. Oh. And and
so
and
in,
again,
in general, yeah, in general, it's just that the thesis is that the point of this talk, the point of the thesis is that everything is too worldly. Don't be worldly, please. Thank you.
right, right, exactly. Be in the world, but not of the world. And I mean,
Mm-hmm.
this is where we really get back to the true meaning of agios. The Greek word. It's away from the world. And that's the Greek word for saint. I mean, that's literally what it means. And it's a matter of being
And it also
able
means
to.
divine. When you, yeah, doesn't it
Yeah,
also mean
yep,
divine?
yep.
Yeah.
And that's exactly right. And look at, I mean, we see society championing these guys like George Floyd. For churches like the Episcopalian Church, that's become a saint for them. And I mean, these people who lived in the world and were of the world, and these are their heroes. I mean, not to
Mm-hmm.
get too unoptical, but it's like this is inevitably what happens. And we have to exemplify the spirit of Christ and the early
Yeah.
church fathers.
They hate George Floyd so much they can't even let him rest in peace. What a bunch of monsters, man. That's the thing. That's the worst part about this. Like, it really sucks to be him because you probably made it way worse on him than if you just like let him be, let him relax in peace, man. Like, seriously, that's
Milked
like
it to the bone.
I can take all the stupid stuff that happens in the US, but like I feel sad for that man. Uh what is this? He said something like, "Our generation is truly lost, man." Like he definitely, I agree with you, George Floyd. Our generation is truly lost, and what he was referring to, is kind of like the generation that is worshiping him now. Is that incredibly funny? Like,
Mm,
like they're worshiping the guy who actually doesn't really like them that much. Like
right, right.
he thinks you guys are lost. He thinks you guys are lost. Um,
Crazy. Yeah.
So that's, and it reminds me of the, the Brotherhood of Saint Moses, which is a huge disrespect to Saint Moses the Black,
Yes.
because they
Yes.
are
Yes. Yes.
anything but like Saint Moses. Um, they're really only common with his sinful past. That's the only commonality these people have. Anyways, the guy, I think his name is Paul Abernathy, who does experiments on on African Americans in the U.S. Literally does meme virus experiments on these people
Wow.
to just to like, um, you know, try to make them get the protection juice, right? You need to get that
Hmm.
protection juice or you're gonna die when nothing happens to these people, right?
Right.
These people, I just saw them on Direcord in the memes channel. I saw uh, the Instagram page post a black Theotokos icon hugging George Floyd. Not
Wow.
joking.
Please tell me that
It's
someone took care
like
of that.
let me, yeah, it's on Instagram. Fellowship of Saint Moses is it might be different. Okay, I might be wrong, but the Instagram page is Fellowship of Saint Moses, and it's just the Mother of God holding a black version of Mother of God holding George Floyd, and there's like George
Oh
Floyd
my.
apparitions on his body. It's
Oh
like,
my gosh.
I hope it not I want to correct myself. I hope it is not the one, I like the Brotherhood of Saint Moses. I hope it's not one, because it might be a different page, but it's
Wow.
like what the heck? And
Ah.
that reminds me, they made an article about like black body of Jesus. It's like Jesus' body's black. I mean, these people don't get why Jesus is not to us by race. He's
Right.
united to us by his human nature. That's
Hmm.
what makes him united to all of us. Okay,
Exactly.
uh, that's the strong unity that we have, not the strong unity like some like I don't know, like a mixture. Not I'm not talking about that, but like he's the only mediator, right?
Yeah. Yep.
He's not the only mediator of a specific all of human nature. So you don't need to make this black body of Jesus. Like what next? Am I gonna write Turkish icons of Jesus like acting like a Turk, like sitting in a kahvehane, or what do you call it in English? I don't remember. Um, oh, it's not a pub, but it's not a pub
like
either.
a
It's
like
like
a
where all Turkish men with their like rosaries hang out. It's like
like a
they play
cafenio
okay.
in Greek. It's like a cafenio, like a cafe or like a yeah, right?
Yes, yes,
Like one of
yes.
the yeah, yeah.
It's kahvehane in Turkish. Like,
Okay.
should we like make him look like that? Because like, oh, if you want him to identify with everyone, it's like sit like playing with their rosaries. Like, man, these freaking Russians, man, we took over Europe, man. We are France. We're gonna France. Like it's like, what you want to make him like that now? Like, should we go? Let's go even wilder. Like, I mean, these people are so insane with the kind
Yeah.
of stupid concepts they think of that doesn't even really
Right.
exist in reality. It's their imagination,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
made up
And
stuff.
yeah, they're obsessed with their race. You know, I mean that's the problem that we're looking at, and I
Hmm.
think that the accusation, and I hate the line where it's like, oh, you know, the Democrats are the real racists. But I mean, seriously, when we look at the levels of ethno narcissism, you know, I mean, you really can't excuse it here in America, and I don't want to get too unoptical, but I think you get what I'm saying. And I mean, you know, like what we've been talking about this whole time, like, you know, literally the Episcopalian Church attempting to canonize a man because of the color of his skin. And
Yeah.
this trend that has been continuing for so long, you know, arguably since the civil rights movement here in America, the 1960s, but even before then, you know. And I mean, this is it's something that's gone on for a very long time, and something that now we're
And yeah,
literally trying to react
I
against.
want to I want to make a small comment. If you listen to Dr. Nicholas Cummings, the one on he was the old president board of APA, in his talk on why homosexuality is not a mental illness anymore, which is by the way another red pill, but I think most people kind of know already about it. Used to be a mental illness, and then said it's not, and it wasn't because of any scientific research; it's because of peer pressure. and he himself like admits it. His talk is on Dr. Joseph Nicolaus's channel, who passed away. He was a conversion therapist dealing with homosexuality. He was a great man. It's in Dr. Joseph Nicolaus's channel. I think from what I remember, he passed away. I hope I'm wrong. I genuinely hope I'm wrong, but I think he did. He also pointed out that like the feminists and all these other people, this is to like the Orthodox feminists and the simps. He points out all of the feminists and the LGBT, they were all on the same side as well. They were like marching together. Now, when you think about it for a second, why are the women's rights people marching with homosexuals who are marching with civil rights movements? Why is that? Just a question you should ask. Why are they marching together? What's the message? And then these people think, oh, modern world is crazy. They just hate white people. Maybe they hated you a couple years ago and you just noticed it today. It took you 60 years, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows? Yeah. I'm not even white myself. I mean, this is just an illusion. I'm actually black. Did you see the, who was it? Tariq Nasheed said, when you look at Turkish people, he's like, I'm going to try to imitate him. I hope I can do it properly. The Santa Claus, yeah, like he was in Turkey. And I've seen Turkish people, they got them afros and you look at their face, they're black. Okay. They're black. So, all of this stuff that the whites claim, it's just all black. Okay. That video that's circulating around today, so it's like, wow, Tariq, thank you for letting me know about what race I actually am. Thank you. We do have black Turks. I'm not saying we don't. They're just like 0.001% of the population.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh gosh, yeah.
Yeah. Like one that comes to mind is a football player called Nazem Sangare. That's a funny thing. Now we're kind of very off topic, but he's a Turkish citizen. Like he's black, like he's African, but he's also Turkish. He's a Turkish citizen, and like we had a national team that like and we had a national team coach. I think his name is Şenol Güneş. I'm not joking. He was talking about how they didn't have a right back position because that's the position he fills in soccer. Like he's a right back. He's like, we couldn't find any good right backs. And then he mentions like Nazem Sangare. He's like, I did not know he was Turkish. Like,
oh my.
I had no idea he was Turkish. And it's like, and then he brought him to the national team, and he's a decent player. he's in my favorite team. It's like that's how I remember. It's like, and then I don't know if it's too fed posty, but in Turkey, the word, not even gonna say the first there, the word, they say it in Turkish television because it's not even really like not in English, but in like their own language. It's not even, it doesn't even have any offensive connotation, but if you type it on Google Translate, like that Turkish word, I don't even want to say the Turkish word because I don't want to put the channel into risk because I'm playing it safe. It translates into the word that's probably gonna get you killed if you say it's in a black neighborhood is all I'm gonna say.
Really?
It directly translates into that. But that's not like it's not used in that manner. And I've seen, and where I'm getting at is that since we're talking about American stupidity and how it affects the world, I am in my university's like international students chat, and a Azerbaijani used the word that ends with A, not the ER form, but the A form. And a black Muslim got really angry at him. And he was like, I did not like we don't like, and like Turks were chiming in, and like she got even crazier and crazier that called everyone in the chat like racist and all that kind of stuff. It's like, wow. I'm just thinking like this is all America's fault. This is all America's fault. Like, oh, like we won't even have this conversation. This won't even exist if it wasn't for this kind of neoliberal American
empire
imagination. I think Paul Scholes calls it the one KYAE, like one American empire. Let me find it. Like, what does it stand for again? I'm gonna make it Gonna find out. Uh, Man, I wish you just wrote it. Like, I wish I could just find the full version instead of just the abbreviation. Oh, the 1,000 year American Empire. Yeah,
Hmm.
that's what it stands for. So
Interesting.
it's because it says it's a superpower on an island culturally, militarily, economically, and technologically. It has no enemies at the borders, which is a completely unprecedented situation. And it
Right.
just means they can do whatever they want and no one can do anything about it. Like, how can you combat this American influence? That's why, like, people, like, Americans might feel weirded out that I talk so much about things going on in the US. Why won't I? Everything
Right.
you do
It's
affects
everywhere.
us,
Yep.
and we can't do
Exactly.
anything to stop it. Like, what can we do to stop it? Nothing.
Right.
Nothing. We can do nothing to stop it. We're not being influenced by the Chinese or anything like that.
Right.
They're
Right.
pretty big too, but they have enemies at their borders. They don't have
Yep.
that cultural influence America has. So that
Yeah.
that that whole, like, stupidity will not even happen if the 1,000-year-old American Empire was not a thing
Right.
that was going on.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's a mess, obviously,
And
right
so
now. But
wouldn't this mass call nonsense. I think that's my
yep. Oh
personal
yeah.
opinion, but
Yep.
that won't happen either.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, it's a wreck, but yeah.
So
Anyway,
yeah,
I gotta get
I
going
just
here.
insulted your favorite country. I'm sorry.
No, but here's the thing. I mean, that's exactly the thing. Like the American Empire, that's not the dream of people who are socially conservative here in this
Yeah,
in this country. Like you think that that's what Nick wants? You think that's what I want? We're not striving for that.
exactly.
We have
Yeah.
to put our own country first, before any sort of international interests. So I agree with you there.
And that's why I always tell Turks when they complain about America. I just always say, you had Donald Trump and you still treated him like shit in, like,
Right?
your own country, in your media, and you promoted lies about him. So you wanted this. Now the Turkish
Exactly.
media is, like, not even covering the fact Joe Biden openly said in an interview with New York Times that got leaked out. He openly said that he's going to do regime change in Turkey.
Yeah.
No
Exactly.
one is
Oh
talking
yeah.
about it anymore. No,
Yeah.
I literally, I don't even think there's a Turk that talked about it other than me. I hope I'm severely wrong, but the media is not talking about that. Like, you
Right.
deserve it, man. Screw you guys.
Right. Right.
Yeah, get your
Absolutely.
regime change to see what happens, bro.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. No, literally. Well, anyway, David, I got to get going here. So we're going to
Mm-hmm.
read through our super chats here and start to
Sure,
wrap
sure,
it up.
sure.
See what our viewers are saying.
Yeah, it's been a long time, man.
Oh,
So, two
yeah,
hours
we've
or
been
something.
going. Yeah, yeah, about 2 hours. We've been going at it. So here we go. So we got one here from Conrad France for 4.99. Thank you, Conrad. And he says America is the way it is in many ways due to the Protestant work ethic and its consequences. Very true. We are living in a
Yep,
late stage reformed country. Great stream. Thanks,
yep.
Conrad. Yeah, absolutely. And I think David Patrick Harry did a stream on that a little while ago. The Protestant work ethic and what it's done to this country. And the mindset that it's put us all in. So
Work for the sake of work.
exactly.
Why? You
Right.
should try
Oh,
to not work and work on better things,
exactly.
more
Yeah.
important things, right?
Right. Right. So yeah, exactly right, Conrad. Thank you for that super chat. We have one here from Landbarot for $3. Thank you, Landbarot. And he says, please pray for the newly born Mary, Elizabeth, and James. Looking for the post-Lent gaming streams with you and David. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well,
Definitely,
many
yeah. We're gonna play
many
Pokemon
years.
Showdown, right?
Oh, for sure, for sure, for sure.
Okay, many years.
Many years to Mary, Elizabeth, and James. Yeah, it's wonderful, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Lambro, for that $3. We have one here from Robert DaCosta for 5 of some unit. I'm not sure what that is. 5R. I don't know what that is, but appreciate it.
Is it pesos? No, pesos is Argentinian.
Maybe.
Real. He's Brazilian.
Real. Okay. Oh, Brazilian. Well,
Mm-hmm.
there you go. Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you, David. Yeah. So thank you, Robert DaCosta. He says early Christians didn't convert the Roman Empire by communing with pagans for the sake of hard times. Very true. They became martyrs and
exactly.
saints. Yep. Exactly
Mm-hmm.
right. That's what we need to really. I think that's really our only recourse at this point. So.
And they weren't debating with heretics whether they should recognize heretical, um, you know,
Right. Right.
martyrs.
Exactly. That's why you saw so many of the greatest martyrs came out of the early church under the persecution of Rome. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Robert Acosta, for that super chat. We have another one here from Susie Q for $5. Thank you, Susie. She says, "We were all ecumenists till we learned better." I don't know what she. You know what? That might have been right. We were talking about the Middle Eastern Christians. I think so. That's I
Yeah,
think that they
yeah,
have.
I agree with Suzuki. I can personally agree with that because
Yeah.
I made a big mistake myself before baptism.
Oh yeah.
Something like on the lines. Yeah, I obviously repented from that, but
Right. Right. Sure.
yeah. So it's a very common impulse that a lot of people don't really grasp at start.
Right. Yeah. Well, there you go. So absolutely right. Thank you, Susie Q, for that $5. We have one here from Will G. Creed. Thank you, Will. And he says he sent in $5. Thank you. He says, "Hi, keep up the good work, both of you." And he sent in 3 Russian crosses, or Orthodox crosses, I should say. So thank you, Will G. Creed. Appreciate that super chat.
Okay.
We will be keeping up the good work, God willing. We have one here from Graham Davis for $2. Thank you, Graham. And he says, "One of the best episodes yet. Glory to God," with an Orthodox cross. Thank you, Graham. Appreciate that. Always love having
Thanks.
David on the
Yeah.
show.
It's one of the best because I am here.
So true. So true. So true.
The average med white acolyte appreciator. It's like
So true.
big must.
Yep. Hey, yeah. Remember when I posted that on Twitter? We're not going to get into that. I don't want to cause
Remember?
any more unnecessary drama.
Uh-huh.
But
I think there was a woman in man's clothing that got mad at that, but I don't
oh,
remember too
GG,
much.
GG, GG, GG. I'm not commenting. Staying out of this. We have one here from Braden Rice for $5, and he sent in. "I went from being a Medwhite hater to being blocked by dozens of heretics on Twitter for being a Medwhite respecter. Love your work,
Who's
brother
this? Who's
David."
this again?
Braden Rice. I don't know if that name means anything to you.
No, it doesn't. But I appreciate it. Yeah. Usually that's what happens. People
The
get a
pipeline.
very bad. Yeah, it's a very bad like view. I guess they see me make fun of people all the time until they
The
realize
women.
why I do that.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, well, good to hear. Glad to hear you're on the right side of the internet, Braden Rice. Thank you for that $5.
hmm
We have one here from Pano Costuros,
That
also known as
sounded
the.
so cultish, bro.
Oh, okay. You know what I'm
I'm
saying.
not.
You know
I'm
what
not
I'm
accusing.
saying.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not accusing you, but I don't know. I
We
have
have one.
PTSD from that. I
Oh,
don't. I'm
PTSD.
just joking.
I know, but it's my goodness. I mean, the other sides that we see out there, it's just you run into so many risks of just straight up heresy
Yeah.
and blasphemy. It's
At the
like
end of the day, we're just a bunch of dudes, man, just hanging
so
out.
true, so true. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we got one here from Pano Costuros, also known as the George Soros the Movement,
Mm-hmm.
for $3, and he says, "Good to see you here, gentlemen. Right wing, quote unquote, aka boomertarian, anti-Christian, chiliastic, I don't know that word actually. Tower of Babel 2.0 precursor factions are all fake, gay, and blasphemous. Yes, Greeks are weak
He's
as
right, you
hell.
know.
I agree." There you go. So
He's
true.
right, you know.
Fun with the Greeks speaking some facts. So, yep,
Because it's
absolutely.
out of love. You know, there's a Turkish saying, a good friend when a good friend speaks, he hurts you. It's a Turkish saying. It's paraphrased. It's not exactly that way, but I think it gets the
Right,
point across. So I
right.
definitely agree with that. So yeah,
We have a
they're
lot of
weak,
work
and
to
we
do.
want them to be strong, man. We
Right,
want you to be
exactly.
strong. We want
That's what
us
I
to
want
be
to, I
strong.
mean, look, yeah, Bono said it as a Greek. I'm saying it as a Greek. Like that's the goal. We want to be
Well,
strong. We want to have more than
I'm
25%
I'm
church
I'm
attendance.
if we agree with the Turks are Greeks theory, I'm a Greek. Well, I
Yeah, so
actually am
true.
like
So
Pontic.
true.
Yeah, I am Pontic
Pontic Greek, yeah.
actually. Uh-huh.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, so
Like
thank you, Bono,
unironically,
for.
yeah.
I know,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I remember you used to. I wasn't there, but I know people have talked about how you used to like bring that up on Twitter and stuff. So I'm sure,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. But so yeah, thank you, Bono, for sending in a super chat full of truth. We have one here from Joshua Schmidt for $9.99, and he says, "I remember roasting that Greekoid in the Dire Court. Very easy to trigger those people. So true. Very easy to trigger heretics who know that they're wrong and they
Yeah,
are the
yeah.
norm."
He's talking about that Greekoid who was like spamming a bunch of anti-Turk
Yeah.
stuff. That was so
Yep.
funny.
Yep.
I wasn't even mad. I just thought it was really funny.
Yeah.
uh, I
Yeah.
hope I
Yeah.
hope they realize the point that we were trying to make.
Exactly. Yeah. God willing. God willing. So thank you, Joshua Schmidt, for that $9.99 and that super chat. We have our last one here from John MC for $5. Thank you, John. And he said, "Thank you both for this excellent stream. Wish I could send more, but I am old and my means are limited." No worries, brother. No worries at all. Thank you for your
No
generous
worries, man.
contribution.
Your
God bless you.
prayers
Appreciate you.
are better than that. So
Absolutely.
more
Absolutely. You
powerful.
know. Yep. Amen.
Hmm.
So that does it for our super chats for the night. Looks like that's about it. So, David, thanks so much for coming on. As always, love to have you.
Thanks for having
And
me. And next
absolutely.
time we're gonna have a gaming stream.
So true.
Okay.
Yep. Pokemon Showdown. Next time,
We
David and
might even
I are
invite a
live.
couple of people, make it free for all, and it's just pure chaos, and we're just having fun, I guess.
Perfect.
After
Perfect.
Lento.
I'm down.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And speaking of
Uh-huh.
which, there will be no show next week in observance of Holy Week. So everyone,
Hmm.
make sure that you're in church for as many services as you can attend next week. I will
Hmm.
not be. I will not be anywhere near the studio. I'm going to be staying at a monastery. Thank God. So God bless you all. I will be entirely offline, and I hope to see you all when I return, and a lot of epic streams in the future. So thanks again, David, for coming on, and thank you to all of